To get us started tonight, folks, please help me welcome Anessa Marie.
With your hate, making me feel you never loved me at all. Does it make you feel tall, that you hope to see me fall? Well, this is my story to tell, and I'm gonna make my life something worth living. Tired of hiding, I'm tired of crying, tired of feeling like I'm dying inside. So I tell myself this nightmare will be soon to come and go, that I'll wake up to a new day, and then suddenly I'll know I can love who I want to and live how I need to. I can live my life for me. It's time to tell my story. Don't tell me I'm wrong, just to discount all the years of pain I went through. Don't tell me I'm confused, or that a boy's a boy and that's the only life I have to choose. You say I'm dead to you, that's fine, because I've somehow crossed a line. I think it's time for you to leave. Give us both some time to grieve for the love you've thrown away. I don't think you should stay. I still love you, by the way. But this is my story to tell, and I've gotta make my life something worth living. I'm tired of hiding, tired of crying, tired of feeling like I'm dying inside, hoping this is just a nightmare I'm living in each day. And when I wake, my world has changed, and I'm magically okay. I'm gonna love who I want to and live how I need to. Gonna live my life for me. It's time to tell my story. I'll finally say goodbye. Time to reach for something greater. It's time to find my place in this world and change my role from created to creator. Time to feel something real and let my song break free. Be the beautiful girl I am unapologetically. Time to bring to life the fable you said was make-believe, and take hold of the pen and write my own story. And the story will be mine to tell, beginning with a chapter that's worth living. I'll be courageous as my tears are drying, and my heart will feel love, 'cause I'm living outside of the history of nightmares. I lived inside each day. I'll turn the page to something new and watch the past drift away. I'm gonna love who I want to and be who I need to. Gonna live my life for me. It's time to tell my story. My story.
And now we watch me attempt to adjust a microphone. I did it! Hold your applause, please. Before we begin, before I even introduce myself, I have to express my sincere gratitude to someone. Without her and without people like her, tonight's show might not be happening. This person's work regularly enhances the Cast and Loose experience, and for the second year in a row, she has provided me as both a writer and a producer with the kind of assistance money can't buy. Thank you, ScarJo. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for regularly making Cast and Loose Live relevant by consistently doing the wrong thing. And then maybe doing the right thing, but then in your subsequent statement about it, still making it all about you. Now we can start. I am Lynne Rosenberg. Thank you. And I am honored to welcome you to Cast and Loose Live, Boys Don't Cry When Transparent Danish Girls Join the Dallas Buyers Club. Irreverently titled after just some of the films of the last few years which have featured cisgender actors portraying transgender characters. Just some. If I had put all of them in there, the title of the show would be longer than the show itself. I curate an online collection of the worst casting notices the entertainment industry has to offer. A casting notice is, of course, a small blurb of text which actors and their representatives use to determine if we are appropriate for a role. They are, for all intents and purposes, job listings. A casting notice may sometimes be referred to as a breakdown, which is also what is currently happening to the fabric of democracy in the United States of America. Tonight, the attractive humans behind me will read verbatim from my collection of breakdowns, specifically to help us understand what it means to be trans or gender nonconforming in the eyes of the entertainment industry. We'll chat a little with everyone about their experiences in the business, and then I'm going to do what Scarlett Johansson should have done in the first place and get my cisgender, able-bodied, straight white ass out of the way. And the cast will perform pieces written in response to these breakdowns by an incredible roster of creators from the TGNC community. But more on that later. First, let's meet the incredible humans behind me. Brian Michael Smith is an actor and filmmaker who you might know from Queen Sugar or from the web series Brothers. There are many makers of Brothers in the crowd currently. You might not know him as the first high school female Asterix to score a varsity touchdown in the state of Michigan. Normally, I insist that these we don't know you fors are from the entertainment industry, but that was just too good and I needed it. Maybe Burke is an actor, writer, singer, dancer, director, choreographer, designer, manager, consultant, educator, advocate, and the person who will tell you to throw out your script if it's offensive. You might know them from the Transliteracy Project, which you'll hear more about in a moment. You might not know them from playing Michelle when Maybe and their brothers would pretend to be Destiny's Child. Aneesh Sheth is an actress, singer, activist, writer, and producer who you might know from A Kid Like Jake, and who you're about to know from NBC's New Amsterdam, and as a series regular on a certain Netflix television show. Ooh. You might not know her from playing a Sephora consultant in Jonathan Anton's Blowout. Who knew? Pooya, Samy el-Noury. Sorry. Samy el-Noury is an actor, aerialist, pianist, puppeteer, vocalist, writer, fugly slut who doesn't even go here. He wrote that, let's be clear. You might know him from 15 seconds of screen time on Transparent. You might not know him from playing a zombie in a promotional film for a haunted house in Beltsville, Maryland, which may have closed down, but for which he got free bagels and was paid to chase a bunch of screaming white people. Pooya Mohseni is a writer, actor, activist, and consultant whom you may know from Falling Water, or as the brown-skinned spy who was shot on Madam Secretary. You might not know her from her acting debut as the male hero, albeit a mouse, in her kindergarten production of A Persian Fable, where she rescued a damsel in distress, but was more likely to push the damsel off the stage so she could wear the damsel's costume than to rescue her. Tonilyn Sideco. Fan club. Is a writer, director, performer, and creative educator. You might know her as a host of PBS Digital Studios' First Person, a series which explores gender identity, sexuality, and queer community. You might not know them from starring in a pornaoke remake of Stevie Wonder's Part-Time Lover. And I am deeply grateful now, having searched what pornaoke means. Thank you, learning every day. And now to the breakdowns. Tonight, I would like to pull back the curtain and show you my process a little. Normally, when I write a Cast and Loose live show, I take all the breakdowns I've collected and write keywords on them, sorting them neatly into the issues they illustrate, which looks like this. Right. But as I was prepping tonight's show, instead it looked like this. Confused. When it comes to gender identity, content makers seem to be very confused. They're confused about gender itself, they're confused about sexuality, they're confused about language, they're confused about punctuation. So tonight, we're going to look at all the ways in which content makers seem to be confused about the TGNC community. But maybe you too are confused, and that is okay. To get everyone on the same page, I thought we would take a moment for a little education. It is my pleasure to introduce the first in a series of videos called The Transliteracy Project, created by Honest Accomplice Theater.
Hello, and welcome to The Transliteracy Project, created by Honest Accomplice Theater. I'm your host, Maybe Burke. Today we're going to kick off the Transliteracy Project video series with Trans 101, so we can lay a foundation before you move on to future episodes. And then if you do get confused during the later episodes, you can refer back to this one for a refresher. It's your education. Do what you want. In order to start talking about Trans 101, we need to explore some terms and topics around gender. Gender, sex, sexuality. 3 terms that are tossed around so often we begin to think they're the same thing, which they are so not. So being trans says nothing about your sexuality. You can be trans and a lesbian, you can be trans and straight, the list goes on.
Gender is between your ears.
Sex is between your legs.
So when you were born, you were assigned a sex, which may or may not match your gender identity. If someone's gender is not the same as the sex that they were assigned at birth, they'd probably identify as transgender or gender nonconforming. Some people know their identity for as long as they can remember, some people never think about it, and other folks come to know themselves later in life.
Let's recap. Gender is not defined by your biological body.
Bye, gender. Now that we've cleared that up, let's look for gender. Wait, did you find it? No? Neither did I, because it doesn't really exist. Take a deep breath. Gender is a construct, meaning that it's something society created in order to classify and segregate people. Gender has been used to tell people what roles they should play, how they should live their lives, how they should parent their children, etc., etc. It's such a successful construct that most of us aren't even aware of how much it surrounds us, and we readily buy into what it stands for and says. To make gender nice and tidy, a binary was created, meaning you had two options, man or woman. The binary refers to the idea that there are two separate poles, and one is totally masculine and the other is completely feminine, and people are only ever at the extremes of these poles. What's interesting is there's not one person out there who performs masculinity or femininity 100% correctly. Why? Because what is the universal definition of masculinity? Plaid shirt, bulging muscles, money, intelligence? What makes a woman anyway? What makes a man? And who decides who qualifies or not? We don't know. Why don't we know? Because gender is made up. Now here's the big reveal. Yes, the binary impacts trans people, but it also impacts people who aren't trans. What? The binary does not help anyone. So we're gonna talk about gender in more complex and interesting ways. And Cecilia is gonna help us out.
Gender is often explained as a spectrum. Meaning, there is a man over here and a woman in the opposite side. But there is space for people in between. And there is not a big pit you fall into if you step out of being a man or a woman.
Most people view a trans person as somebody who was put on one of the sides of the spectrum when they were born, but actually belongs on the other side. So if they were put at point A, they're now at point B, from a woman to a man, or a man to a woman. And that may be the case.
But again, so many people are put on point A, but they decide to move to point C, or to point D, or all sort of variations in the middle zone.
And some people might not be on the spectrum at all. And that's okay too.
And some people may be moving around the spectrum, or under the spectrum, or through the spectrum to entirely new places. Hey, some people don't remain in the same place for their entire lives, or even day to day.
And pretty soon, our spectrum is a flowing orb of gender awesomeness. Thanks for your help, Cecilia.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Honest Accomplice Theater and the Trans Literacy Project. You can check out more of their videos and sign up to get on their email list at honestaccomplice.org. And you may have recognized maybe Burke. That host is really cute. Join me, friends, join me. Now, to the breakdowns. Let's start with parts of speech. Some authors, we're already there. Some authors seem to be confused about what constitutes a noun and what constitutes an adjective.
Nightclub transgender. 25 to 33 years old. Black, African American, Caucasian, Hispanic, male or female. Colorful, nightclubbing, transgender.
Student film synopsis. When a high school boy attempts to tell his female friend that he has been in love with her for years, she unexpectedly cuts him off to say she has decided to become a transgender. Years later, they meet again, and they both have something to say to each other.
And I have a few things to say to you, including transgender is an adjective, not a noun. Other content makers seem to be confused about terminology. Some might even make up brand new words.
Alberta, the Reverend's wife, 30 to 70, trans or trans presenting.
I don't know know what trans presenting means to you, but I know what it means to me. And I have to credit Donnie Cianciotto for that joke and that picture. Other writers will bandy about outdated terms like transvestite.
Transvestites. Any ethnicity, male, age 18 to 50. We will be casting a trio of performers for this role. The trio follows a man around the city in his head.
Queenie. Male, 20 to 30s, a transvestite that oozes sexual confidence with masculine feline features like a large predatory cat. She is cold, malevolent, and supernatural.
Same.
That was my favorite picture I've ever found for this show.
I see it.
Hey, girl. Or perhaps that old chestnut transsexual.
Mary, 21, is a transsexual playing a young white racist woman in her 20s. She is the house of the rising sun, born from every father's womb. She gives an abortion to her guilt. This is the role of a lifetime.
Is it?
Look, I don't know what it means either, but it's the role of a lifetime.
Mia. Hot party girl Instagram sensation with a few tats and a body that drives both men and women wild. Mia is an androgynous toned transsexual beauty. Can be cast with a woman or a very passable transsexual.
Oh, no.
Ah, yes, passability. That brings up another issue. Content makers often confuse their casting notices with an outlet for their microaggressions.
Bridget, a beautiful gypsy trans woman. Almost no trace of her ever being a man. Old soul, young body, passionate, fugacious, strong will and clever mind, seeking transsexual women. Nudity required. Partial, possibly full rear nudity.
Or not so microaggressions. Transgressions. Well,
Microtrans?
we might have just coined a new phrase.
Tallulah, male, transsexual / crossdresser. Tallulah is a male to female transsexual who is as sassy as she is bitchy. Oh, just wait. If the light is right, she can be quite beautiful. But to the observant eye, she isn't fooling anyone.
And to my observant eye, you're an asshole. But speaking of micro, let's take an even more focused look at breakdowns, right down to the level of punctuation. You might be able to tell how your time on set is going to go just from the breakdown's punctuation and capitalization.
Brandon, biologically female. This is not a mistake. African American, female. Brandon is biologically female, but identifies as male. A larger body person who's hood, but knows how to make good moves in their personal financial situations. Queer actor is a plus.
Sometimes capitalization is just to show how excited they are to meet you.
Category G, transgender, gender fluid, non-binary people. These people are interesting, and also some are real. Attractive types, but also people with gaps in teeth, 2 different eye colors, unique features, all skin tones, vitiligo, freckles, albinos welcome, moles, tattoos, piercings, punks, goths, all hairstyles, hijabs, bindis, Native Americans, mixed race, facial scarring, tribal scarring. We are wide open to diversity of all kinds, all shapes and sizes and ages.
Amazing. I would need an entire hour just to unpack that one breakdown. Do be warned, if there's one type of punctuation that should send you running, it's quotation marks.
Surprise! This transgender female has a real surprise for a few of the guys.
I wonder what it is.
Mr. Addison, a man in his 40s, specifically seeking transgender actor, Mr. Addison is pathetic. But perhaps not always so. When he's sober, he seeks solace in a bottle. When he's drunk, he seeks solace in the arms of a young whore. He's never sober.
Wait, this one was on the LSAT, right? In the logic games? Oh, I'm really glad that joke landed, because I was like, this is a really specific joke. Thank you all so much. Zooming out to a more macro approach, the confusion about gender might lie in individual body parts. Your voice box?
Masculine girl. Lesbian character, girl that can act and talk in really brutal way. She should be able to talk in a really low-pitched voice.
I wouldn't know anything about that. In your hands?
Female hand model, Caucasian, androgynous characteristics. Model will be pouring a liquid.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Your hands look too much like this gender construct I've created in my mind. The confusion might be about your race.
Transgender Asian woman, female, 18 to 55 years old, Caucasian.
Oh, look, there she is again.
That makes sense now. Now I understand.
Microsoft Paint, thank you very much. Thank you. Or the confusion might be in your hair.
Izzy, female, 20 to 30, open sexuality, but must have long hair.
Where gender nonconformity is concerned, sometimes the writer's confusion isn't offensive, it's simply hilarious.
Gender ambiguous water gun person. 18 to 28 years old, male or female, a person who greets a very straight-laced and corporate newcomer into the communal house.
Is the person gender ambiguous or the water gun? You can thank maybe for that joke. Animate objects aren't the only things that have to worry about their conformity. Inanimate objects get in on the fun as well.
Maggie. She's very liberal and a feminist. She has a strong classroom presence, and she wears clothing that is non-gender conforming.
So, like, pants? And sometimes writers want their nonconformity to, well, totally conform.
Tess. All ethnicities female, feminine, viper, seductress, cunning with a hunger about her. So beautiful it is unnatural, oozing in sexual knowledge and very, very desirable. Gender nonconforming welcome.
The phrase oozing in sexual knowledge makes me want to crawl in a hole and die. Another word you'll see tossed around is androgynous, and you can tell a writer's judgment of the physical value of androgyny by the use of a single tiny conjunction.
Alyssa Durante. She is slightly androgynous, yet naturally beautiful.
I have said it before in this show. And. All you had to do was say, and. For the trans women out there, I don't need to remind you that writers seem to be particularly confused about what sort of work you do. Or rather, they seem to think there's only one kind of work you do.
Transgender female. She works outside of Casey's massage parlor and lewdly yells at passersby about her private parts, belittling those who ignore her.
Bella, transgender female. She's cool, free-spirited, and carries a take me how I am or kiss my ass attitude. She deals with her insecurities with jokes, a sense of levity, and a sense of sexuality. She met Jet on the streets while hustling her body. Selling herself on Sunset Boulevard has toughened her up beyond her years and also has rubbed a sort of eccentricity off on her.
Ugh, get it off. I do have good news, though. Cis, trans, or otherwise, all women get to deal with male writers' mommy issues.
Roma, transgender woman, Latina, beautiful and seductive. And she works at a sex club and catches the eye of our hero, who thinks she's his mother.
Catching someone's eye seems to be more important to these writers than, talking.
Destiny. A trans woman and sex worker who's worked several blocks for the past few years. She's the eagle eye of the group and walks the block with a sense of confident caution. Non-dialogue.
Charlene. A trans woman and sex worker. She's an attractive young trans woman with a watchful eye, non-dialogue.
She's Harvey Firestein?
Why not?
Why not?
Dead.
Layla, a trans woman and sex worker. She's a young woman who follows the lead of Destiny and Charlene. Non-dialogue.
God forbid you're given the chance to speak. And then you occasionally get a simple yet hot mess like this.
Drag queen / transgender call girl types. Male.
But this sort of problem is not reserved for sex workers. The confusion in breakdowns is often so glaring, so monumental. It appears the writers are completely befuddled by what it is they're actually looking for.
Male, number 7. Man in his 30s and 40s, butch, gay, and does impersonations. Did we mention he's female? Think share. That's how you get. My next touch.
Ari, any ethnicity, trans or gender non-conforming male.
Venda, a transgender man desperately trying to release the past and embrace her present and future as a woman.
No.
So close.
Willie. Willie, Jake's husband, artist, model moody, neurotic, huge ego, artist, transgender, man to woman.
No.
No.
No, no, no. You got all the things wrong. This is what I look like when I read shit like this. It's like a meme from like a solid 8 years ago.
Still works.
I'm not up
You
to
look
date with
so
my
good,
memes.
though.
On the other hand, the problem can be more subtle.
Robin Hood identifies as male. Transgender actors also encouraged to audition.
See, all you had to say was identifies as male. That's it. Leave it alone after that. Because what you've done instead is linguistically proven your ignorance. But at the end of the day, the biggest confusion in the industry is who gets to play these roles. And as we have seen recently in Hollywood, ciswashing, where a cisgender actor plays a transgender role, is possibly one of the most insidious and painful confusions of them all.
Notes on the play. Fancy is a transgender woman of 30, an Upper East Side trust fund drunk who lives with a talking human liver who used to be her psychotherapist. Fancy is magic, and she turned her shrink into a spare liver for when her current liver fails. The role of Fancy will be played by an already cast male actor performing in drag. The liver is a green hand puppet, and the puppeteer will be in a green unitard.
Why? Why?
I don't know why.
Well, you can't see it because maybe and a couple other people who may be in this room got it taken off the bill for the theater it was supposed to happen.
I'll protect you.
Trans man. This role is based on Brandon Tina, the person who inspired the 1999 film Boys Don't Cry, looking for real trans actors who identify as men, also cisgendered women who have a tomboy look. He's trying to have a nice time with his girlfriend, but he's bothered by cisgendered men nearby.
Now, the good news is this role for ABC's What Would You Do was ultimately cast with a trans actor. Yeah. And I would like to believe my tweets had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Take your time, just read through it. No, don't. But the fact is, language like this is coming out all the time, and in my experience, the ending isn't always that happy. But let's not focus on my experience. Before we move on to hear the incredible response pieces written on this material, I want to hear a little about my cast experience in the industry. So we were talking in rehearsal, and normally in this section we talk about like terrible things that have happened individually and bad audition stories. And something that came up was actually like things that are going well and seem to be taking steps forward. So I thought we would hear a couple of those stories. Brian, can you tell us a little bit about Queen Sugar and your experience with that?
Yeah, Queen Sugar was an amazing experience for me. Ava DuVernay executive produces the show, and she's done a great job. Yes. She's done a great job of putting together a very female-led cast and crew. A lot of the people top of the line, that's the writers and the key department heads, they're women, and she makes sure that she gives people a leg up. And she And they made sure that when they were doing the role for Twan, who's a transgender male character on that show, that they actually spoke with transgender male people in the process. So
Wait, what?
yeah, it's like
You can talk to them?
you can. They have phone numbers. You call them. They write emails. So she did it, and so it was one of the best representation that I had seen for a black trans-masculine character in the time that I've been acting for like the last 7 years. So I was really excited to do it, and I feel like because she consulted with Nick Adams from GLAAD about what's truthful, what's the language to use, and then they even asked me like, what about this? I'm like, actually, I do have some ideas about how I would say this, and this is what I really say, and it ended up going into the production. So they listen. They're listening now.
That's so great. Yeah. And something else that Brian is in, Brothers, which is a wonderful series. You check it out. It's on Amazon. But in addition to watching the series itself, I would watch the making of that they made.
Yeah.
Because it's incredible to see a crew and a writer's room and an entire production staff that is queer and people of color, and it's just amazing to see how generous a room can be when you make everyone feel safe.
And it's very powerful too, I want to say, for actors especially, because after you are told no so many times, you're not this enough, you're not trans enough, and you spend your whole life kind of going through that, when you go into the casting process and you just bring a lot of that into the room with you, to be in a production team where everyone else is trans, whether they're the writers or the directors and the people behind the camera, it just feels so much more, encouraging and just gives life to like truth. So keep making your own content if you're out there.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. And Aneesh, we've seen a lot of successes this year, but you're getting called into rooms.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the best things is you're getting called into rooms for roles that aren't trans roles. They're just fucking roles.
They're fucking roles. Yeah. So I'll be recurring on NBC's New Amsterdam this fall. And when I originally went in for the role, it was me and a bunch of cis women. And so I was really, really shocked when I got the role, because I was like, wow. And I don't know if anybody in the company knew I was trans before I got to set, but they quickly learned after, because I have a big mouth. No. So I think there's progress. We have to infiltrate the system.
And I have to give a shout out to David Caparelli-Otis, who
Yeah.
is a casting director in the industry who's been making some real strides in terms of getting people into the room. And one of the things I heard him say was, at the Trans Town Hall last year, which maybe some of you were at, he said, if you're gonna say no to me about someone on a list, you have to say out loud why. And I think that's really important, make people say why, yeah? But Samy, so we do have one problematic story, and this is good to sort of point out that everyone has to be better, right? Including reviewers. So Samy had an experience with a review of a show he's doing up in, Barrington Stage right now?
Just make sure.
Please hold for technology.
I know, my gosh. Is this the one? Oh my god.
Are you looking at your Instagram feed?
Absolutely.
Look at mine.
Absolutely. Okay, got it. All right, so for some context, the character I play is a trans man. Surprise, I'm also a trans man. That's the only thing I have in common with this character. Also, some more context. I did not meet the reviewer. The reviewer did not speak to me. Here's what the reviewer wrote. Let's go get me. As Parker, the male minority professor, Samy el-Noury gives a remarkable performance of the transgender teacher who has been outed to the faculty by the dean. El-Noury is excellent in this role, which actually sounds remarkably like his own personal history. And his playing has that personal resonance that only good theater can give to an actor's... All right, whatever. He is also transgender, a requirement by the author for playing this role, and there is little about him that gives that away on sight or sound. It is only the subtleties brought to the role that illuminate the truths behind his work.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just hold for that silence for a moment. Yeah, it's deeply problematic. And I mean, how's it feel to read something like that as an actor who's just trying to do
Oh, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait. Actually, real quick, let me not assume, because I know I would not want someone to do that. Oh yeah, fuck that guy. Of course it was a dude.
Retweet.
And Pooya, you had a great experience with Falling Water as well, yeah?
I did, and what I loved about it at that time was that I auditioned for this role that was not a hooker.
Oh my God.
Or dead hooker. A hooker of any kind.
They have those?
Or anybody that was dead at any point in the story. She was a scientist. And what they really wanted, they were open to both trans men and trans women, and I think most of us standing up here, we auditioned for it. But in the breakdown, they said, we want this character to be trans, not because we want to exploit a trans story, but because we want this character to be trans, and that is the statement we're making. And they basically just wanted a trans character because they wanted one of their actors that gets paid, that can pay their SAG dues. They wanted that person to be a trans actor.
I think that's such a great point, is that ultimately all of this boils down to employment opportunity. I mean, you know, that's the thing. These are job listings. And who are you paying and who are you bringing into the room? Yeah. Thank you all so much. We've got to move on, but does anyone, Tony, anything? No? Great. We're doing great. Okay. No. Now, on to the response pieces. A few months ago, I gave a group of writers from the TGNC community a document chock full of all the breakdowns you just heard, and asked them to write anything they were inspired to write. It could be a poem, a song, a scene, a screenplay, a monologue, absolutely anything. And the results are what you're about to hear. To start us off tonight, here is The Lazy Cis Writer Part 2 by Donnie Cianciotto.
A normal-looking white teenage girl sits alone on screen in a classroom at a private school writing in a journal. A jocked-up white teenage boy enters holding a rose behind his back and nervously approaches white teenage girl. He tries to play it cool.
Hi, my beautiful female.
Oh, hi.
Hi, hey. How's it going?
Okay and stuff. Just wondering why you asked me to meet you here in 0 hour when no one else is around and other exposition.
Right, of course. Well, I asked you to meet me here this morning because, well, we've been going out for a few weeks now, and I thought that maybe you would want...
He gets down on one knee and pulls the rose from behind his back.
I would like it if you'd be my date for prom, white teenage girl.
Oh, white teenage boy, that's very nice and stuff, but like, there's something that I need to tell you.
Okay, I say anxiously, worried about the possibility of being turned down. What is it?
I've decided to become a transgender.
What?
Yes, now my secret's out. I'm going to take medication and grow a penis. And I'm going to buzz my hair and fight with my upper middle class parents about it because they're just so old-fashioned and they don't understand anything. But I'm still going to feel obligated to love them out of a misguided belief that blood family is more important than my own happiness. So even though they won't support me and will misgender me and at times be intentionally cruel to me, I won't actually cut them out of my life when I turn 18 because I've been gaslit to believe that if I did, I would be some kind of horrible villain. So instead, I'll just spend the next several decades until they die, always feeling intense shame, fear, and inadequacy, and dreading things like Christmas and birthdays. And then once they are finally dead, I'll spend the rest of my life crushed by the guilt that accompanies my feelings of relief that they are no longer around to hurt me. And I'll make up for that by saying things like, they just wanted what was best for me. And they just always saw me as their little girl, and who can blame them? Or, we didn't always see eye to eye, and my right shoulder will always hurt when it rains from when my father threw me down the stairs. But I never stopped caring about him because that's what families do. And also, I'll never find love.
Wow, white teenage girl.
Actually, it's Blaze with an S now.
But isn't that how you spell blasé?
No, it's pronounced Blaze. Just with an S where the Z would be. It's creative.
Sure, white teenage Blaze with an S. This is a lot of information to handle all at once. My fragile masculinity feels threatened by this change of events. I feel personally victimized, and this is making me feel angry. How could you do this to me?
Very sorry, white teenage boy. As someone who was socialized female, I've learned to apologize for things that aren't my fault. And even though I just told you my very big news about how I'm going to become a boy and bring shame to my middle American family, I'm mostly concerned right now about your feelings.
As white teenage girl / Blaze continues to talk, the camera slowly pans in on her round, perfectly shaped breasts, artistically, of course.
How do you feel knowing that my perky, voluptuous girl breasts will fall off because of going through the sex change? And what can I do to make this easier on you, white teenage boy, who I've only dated for like a few weeks?
I'm not a fucking gay!
Why do you even have that?
This is an edgy short film written for a college class. You knew you were never gonna make it out if you're alive. Transsexuals aren't allowed to make it to the end of an artsy short film, or else the lazy cis writer would have to write quality material instead of making a pitiful attempt at manipulating the audience's emotions through tranny-bashing torture porn. This is so much easier.
You have a good point, white teenage boy. How much more time do we have?
White teenage boy pulls the trigger and the screen goes black. The word fiend appears, and the credits roll in the style of an old silent movie while an unknown singer sings about bravery in German to the sound of a mandolin and crashing waves. The film does very well at festivals and is given many awards by many cis people.
Next up, we have We Are Casting Trans Characters Badly by Pooya Mohseni.
Interior, audition waiting room. 3 actors wait. 2 trans actors, 1 cis male actor. A cis male producer enters.
Hello, all. As part of our diversity inclusivity efforts, we have decided to tell stories of transgender, transvestite, non-binary, whatever people. You know, those people. We are looking for authentic transgendered actors who...
Excuse me, I'm a trans actor. Here's my resume.
No. You're not trans enough for our project. Thank you. As I was saying, actors who can really dig deep, show their characters' transness.
Excuse me, I'm a trans actor, trained improv background. Okay.
No, you're not curvy enough. Luscious enough. As I was saying, actors who can make our audience feel something. Maybe a little excited, you know? Maybe a little sad. Feel sorry for the character.
Feel a little excited? About what?
Stop interrupting me. If you keep talking, how can I tell your story? Excited about what is under the character's clothes. Between their legs, you know. The taboo of the land down under.
You know, you can go suck a carrot, you... Never mind. I'm out.
Good. Now, where was I? These transgendered people are so ungrateful. In short, we want an actor who looks trans enough that even our below average audience can tell that they were really born a man or a woman. Because we also do acknowledge transgender men. You didn't think we did you? Someone who is non-threatening or confusing and goes well with their $5 popcorn. Someone hot, curvy, and grateful that their story is being told in a truthful, compact, non-complicated way. Right? Great! Who's next?
It's not transgendered, it's just transgender. It's like an adjective, not a verb. Hi, it's me again. I know that you said I'm not luscious enough, your words, but I can put more makeup on, maybe some padding, If you give me the sides, I can read for you, and you can decide.
Aisha doesn't have lines. She gets killed in the opening scene.
Say what? You put a breakdown for a trans character that you can't even gender correctly, who is gonna be dead before the audience's ass settles into their seats? And for this, I should be grateful to you. You sorry ass, who don't even have the common decency to not talk about our privates like it's Six Flags. You can shove your casting up your land down under.
Bye-bye. Touchy, touchy, touchy. Now. Ooh, you. Got a resume?
I'm not trans. I'm here for a different role.
Don't worry, with the right hair, makeup, heels, you may just be the right actor to play our dead trans hooker.
End of piece. Next up, we have Untitled Subway Scene by Corbin Went.
On the subway, an actor, Ellis, is reading lines under their breath. The train stops. Doors open, and a woman at the edge of the seat stands. Darling steps on, bumping into the woman.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I was miles away.
The woman scoffs and exits.
Okay, enjoy your remaining years, hon. Make them count, baby.
8th Avenue bound L train, next stop Graham, transfer the G, St. Clair. They sit next to Ellis and they open a wallet, counts cash, goes through the cards one by one.
Sorry, is that yours?
No, hers. Bougie bitch.
That was, it was really...
I'm good at it, I know. You an actor?
Kind of, I guess. I'm trying anyway.
You need to meet my man Yoda.
What?
Do or do not, there is no try.
Oh, well, it's an audition, so...
So? Even worse, you trying to be an actor in an audition? What's the part?
Bella. She's 25, transgender.
Oh my God, are you trans?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, that was really rude, wasn't it? Sorry. I just wouldn't have known. I am too, obviously.
Okay.
So Bella, is this some Twilight thing, or?
No. It says here, cool, free-spirited, and carries a take me how I am or kiss my ass attitude. She deals with her insecurities with jokes, a sense of levity, and a sense of sexuality.
Sounds like me. Is she a sex worker?
Yeah, well, she was.
The train stops, doors open, and Walker gets on. Manhattan bound L train, next stop is Lorimer, stand clear.
They're all sex workers, huh? There's a trans senator now, you know that? But no, you put one of those in a movie or something and it's like a whole thing, because that's not where we belong. So you have to do a whole thing with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, spare a moment of your time and $1 from your wallets. I'm not trying to score booze or drugs. Put those days behind me a long time ago. I'm $19.47 away from having a bed to sleep in for the weekend, which would be really nice, and a meal. Spare some change for an old tranny? Anyone? $1? Nobody? Fucking y'all won't even keep me alive, you monsters!
You wanna run lines?
What? Here?
Sure. I got a bunch of friends who are actors. I do it all the time.
I don't...
Come on, it's fucking New York. You think anybody gives a shit? Okay, so you're Bella. Ooh, I'm Jet. Very nice. Sup, Bella?
Jet, you got a lot of nerve walking down this block this time of night.
I got a good reason.
Oh, yeah?
Good as anyone else. Better, maybe.
We're done. I told you last time.
I'm sorry. I think, sorry. You said that she has, take me how I am or kiss my ass vibe, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're done! I told you last night!
We're on a train.
Exactly. Would Bella give a fuck?
Look, thanks for your help, but...
The walker turns on them.
Spare $1?
The train stops.
Sorry, I don't have any change.
Nah, broke as shit.
Train door opens, the walker clocks them.
You should be fucking ashamed of yourselves.
The walker exits.
8th Avenue bound L train, next stop Bedford.
The doors close.
What was that? What a fucking bitch. I can't believe that. Like, just because you're trans doesn't mean it's my responsibility to take care of you. Fuck that phobic garbage.
Yeah.
Don't tell me she got to you.
No, it's just, you have that wallet. Could have given her $1. What's the difference?
Who pays your rent?
I do.
And I pay mine. And you know who pays hers? That's right. At least I target rich assholes, not fucking bullying trans kids. I'm not paying up for that to keep that shit going.
I guess.
Yo, I never got your name.
Ellis.
Like the island?
If it helps.
Darling.
What?
Darling.
The train slows.
This is me.
You're gonna leave me hanging? Break a leg, yeah? Take me how I am or kiss my ass. Mantra. Fucking mantra. Yo, find me on Instagram at Darling Sacrifice. We should hang.
Okay, thanks.
Ellis exits, the doors close.
8th Avenue bound L train, next to 1st Avenue, stand clear of the fucking Glorious Beast.
Next up, we have Trans What? By Emmett Jack Lundberg.
A trans guy walks into a bar. A cis guy sits at a small table sipping a drink.
Are you waiting?
Yeah, I'm waiting for someone. Yep.
I think that's me.
I'm meeting with a new client. Yeah, no. I'm waiting for a transgender.
Oh, right. I'm trans.
Oh. So this is what you look like normally.
What?
Like without all the makeup and the women's clothing.
Did you think I was a trans woman?
A transgender, yeah.
You know that trans men are different than trans women, right?
Trans is a trans man, come on.
I was assigned female at birth.
You can go the other way?
Yes.
So you used to be a woman.
Not exactly, but if that makes it easier.
Wow! Yo, spot on. I would have never guessed
Guess what?
that you are not a guy.
I am a guy, a trans guy.
Do you have a dick?
Excuse me?
Like, like you got a dick? What, how do you...
You're gross.
What, you're weird.
You're ignorant.
Well, you're a transgender.
Thank you.
End of scene. Next, we have 7 Minutes in Heaven by Kit Yan and Simone Wolff. Scene 1, spotlight on Tony. Aneesh, Samy, Brian, and Pooya sit watching as audience members.
Artist statement. When I sat down to write this play, I started by trying to understand what a play is. In my opinion, a play is essentially 3 things in this order: conflict, tension, resolution. But I don't want to write a play with conflict and tension. Trans, gender nonconforming, and non-binary communities have enough conflict and tension in our everyday lives. I want to write a play where trans, non-binary, and gender nonconforming people finally get the rich, complex, nuanced, beautiful, ugly, and full lives we deserve without having to fight or be sheroes or be remarkable or brave or special.
Yeah.
So I asked myself, could that even work? What would it look like? Would it still be a play?
Lights fade. Scene 2, lights up.
Act 1, Scene 1. A group of trans, gender nonconforming, and non-binary folks stand in line, waiting to get into a Telsey audition room. Aneesh, Samy, Brian, and Pooya are running lines.
Hello, mother. I'm a trans. I was one thing and now I'm another.
Hey, babe, you like these muscles? Bicep, boom. Tricep, boom.
When I was little, I liked cars, trucks, and Legos. Not Barbies and dresses or makeup.
I could whip you harder if you aren't more grateful, you sorry excuse for a man.
This was the real me all along. I feel whole now.
Gym for 3 hours a day, then protein, then tan.
I'm not a girl. I'm a man. A real man, okay?
Show me how sorry you are, you little worm.
Okay, next on deck, Aneesh, you'll be seen for murderous sex worker in room number 1. Samy and Brian, you'll head to room number 2 for buff twin thieves. And Pooya, you'll be seen in room number 3 for ghost of murderous sex worker. No, it doesn't have to be the same person. We've already had a few people ask.
Aneesh, Samy, Brian, and Pooya all huddle together before they enter their auditions.
Woo, woo, we got this, okay? I believe in you, babes. Woo.
Heck yeah! We're all gonna get the role of our dreams!
Aneesh, Samy, Brian, and Pooya, please head to your rooms.
Aneesh, Samy, Brian, and Pooya take seats in their respective rooms and face the audience. We hear the voice of the casting director behind them.
Next, Aneesh reading for murderous sex worker.
Auditions make me so emotionally tired. I think I need to do some self-care before I can really perform. Night-night.
Samy and Brian next for buff twin thieves.
Samy and Brian take sandwiches out of their backpacks and begin to eat.
We gotta nourish our bodies before we read. Thai peanut tofu, made it myself. If I wasn't an actor, maybe I'd be a chef.
Definitely. My boyfriend made mine. Homemade almond butter and organic jam on gluten-free bread.
Let's have Pooya up for ghost of murderous sex worker.
Pooya opens a face mask and begins to put it on while reading the back of the package.
A refreshing facial to make sure I feels my best is a must. Snail mucus? Ew, but ooh. Wow, so cool and refreshing.
Actors, if you aren't gonna read the sides, you'll have to leave the audition room.
Lights out. Scene 3 a few minutes later. Lights up on Aneesh, Samy, Brian, and Pooya, all drinking cocktails on a fancy Manhattan rooftop deck.
What have you been up to?
I'm the lead in the new Marvel movie. No audition necessary. They contacted my agent directly.
That's great. I'm executive producing that with all the money I stole from the Crazy Rich Asians box office. Brian?
I'm starring in that hit Broadway play called Queer Trans Folks that I commissioned to write. Samy?
Top chef. I'm the country's new gender-fucking culinary icon.
Lights out. Scene 4. Lights up on Aneesh, Samy, Brian, Pooya, and maybe back to being audience members.
Lights.
Wow, that was a boring play.
What the hell just happened here?
What a snooze.
I'm leaving. That sucked.
That was the worst thing I've ever seen. Aside from Hamilton.
Spotlight on Tony, sitting on a chair, taking it all in. Tony shrugs, puts their hand behind their head, kicks their legs up on another chair, pulls an eye mask over their eyes, and goes to sleep. Lights out, end of piece. Next up, we have Dear Entertainment Industry by maybe Burke.
You're not the first person to ask me to coffee so that you can exploit my emotional labor.
You're not the first person to blame the misgendering of a character on history.
You're not the first person to ignore my humanity in the name of art.
Nothing you're doing is new or bold or inspiring.
It's tired, it's offensive, and it's out of date.
To the director who asked me if I was using my given name.
How many actors do you know who use their birth names professionally?
To the playwright who told me that their play can't be offensive because it's based on a real person.
You're not allowed to tell me what is or isn't offensive to me.
To the director who pushed me to play the role more timid, more shy, more demure.
You are not ready to understand a trans girl who loves herself.
To the acting teacher who couldn't coach my monologue because I don't buy you as a man.
I just watched you coach another student playing a llama.
To the casting director who told me that the character is at a different point of her transition than I am.
I'm non-binary, not incomplete.
To the producer who didn't audition me, but offered me a role as a Latina homeless sex worker who was murdered, saying only, "We love your look."
Thank you. I'm so glad you saw that in me. Also, I'm Middle Eastern.
To the casting director who asked me when I changed my name.
Do you want me to sing? I can sing.
To the producer who called me in to fill a diversity quota.
I'm still an able-bodied, neurotypical, thin white person who holds up to some conventional standards of beauty.
To the casting director who asked me to get a closer shave next time.
I cut my savings in half to have lasers shot at my face so that I won't have to shave.
To the producer who didn't cast me because I didn't look like a man.
To the producer who didn't cast me because I didn't look like a woman.
To the producer who didn't cast me because I didn't look trans enough.
To the producer who didn't cast me because I looked too trans. If all you care about is how your actors look, then I don't want to work with you.
To the producer who told me, trans people don't write.
Literally Google me.
To anyone who reminds trans people that it's only acting when they're outraged about trans roles being played by cis actors.
I pretended I was a girl 24/7 for 23 years. I know what acting is.
To Hilary Swank.
Felicity Huffman.
Daniela C.
Jared Leto.
Dot Jones.
Jeffrey Tambor.
Elle Fanning.
Eddie Redmayne.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Michelle Rodriguez.
And Matt Bomer.
You're so brave.
To the producer who asked, what's the point? When I said I wanted to write about things other than gender.
I am more than what makes me different from you.
You're not the first person to tell this story.
You're not the first person to write a trans story from a cis perspective.
You're also not the first person to get it wrong.
We won't subject ourselves to enduring the work of people who sensationalize our identities for a profit.
We are sick of this narrative. And if you think you know better, that just proves that you don't.
Look, we're not saying that you don't have to stop trying.
We're just saying that you should try harder.
Meet someone.
Learn something.
Do better.
End of piece. Okay, we're gonna do this really quick. We have one more piece for you tonight, but before we get to that, we're going to hear briefly.
Oh.
Oh my God, really?
This one still works.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Hopefully you know that the proceeds from tonight's show are going to TransLab to help fund the December 2018 TransLab reading series. To tell us more about this project, allow me to introduce TransLab co-founder Kit Yan. Kit is a writer, producer, and performer who you might know for his musical Interstate. It's amazing if you haven't seen it. Award-winning. You might not know them from being cut from a Liberty Mutual commercial. Oh, hi. Kit, please join me on stage.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an incredible honor to share the stage with these wonderful actors. And hi. I want to talk to you a little bit about the mission of TransLab. It started at a bar. A couple of us got together. We talked about what theater needed, how we could support each other, and we formed a lab with the support of the Public Theater and WP to give folks a space to come together for community, to knowledge share, for resources, and then to also just make work on our own terms in our own voices. There are a couple of ways to support TransLab. The first one is take your cell phones out and follow at TransLab Theater. You can also go to transtheaterlab.org. Thank you so much, Lynne. And make a donation. We're trying to do a TGNC 20 campaign tonight to get 20 folks to donate $20 to TransLab. And also, we have open submissions starting last week through September 15th. So if you are a self-identified TGNC non-binary person who makes art, we are looking for submissions. So please go to transtheaterlab.org and apply. Big shout out to Lynne. Thank you. Thanks so much, CastAndLoose. Thanks so much, everyone.
I swear we're gonna get out of here. Okay. Lastly, to close us out tonight, we have Question, Verb, the Imperative Form by Mashuq Mushtaq Deen.
Why do people see us in these ways, as exotic and perhaps confusing identities? Why do people sensationalize what it means to be transgender? Why must it be glamorous or tragic? Of course, sometimes it's glamorous or tragic, but why is that the only story that's ever told? Is that for ratings, or is that the way people see us? Can you imagine a boring trans person who you might see every Sunday at church? I mean, can you imagine that you discover that he or she is not boring a month after meeting them and you realize that, hey, they're a wonderful cook? That their cooking skills are what makes them interesting, if not glamorous or tragic. What is they? And more importantly, why do we never talk about church, about worship, about faith? And why did I digress? Look, when confronted with trans folks, why do people feel confusion? Where does the confusion come from? Do they feel that confusion to be threatening to their own identities? Do they feel like it's unfair that this is happening right now? Where was this moment, this movement, when it could have helped their younger selves? Do they feel that they're too old to learn new words? Too old to create space for new meanings between words they've already learned? And where do these new words come from? Who created them? If language is indicative of the way that we think, is it possible to change the way we think with new language? Has language evolved so quickly that a person can't keep up? What if a person can't keep up? What if a person feels lost, like everyone else knows something that they do not? What do you do with that feeling? And how to catch up? Is it possible to catch up? When sometimes it becomes hard to remember why they even walked into the kitchen, how are they supposed to remember the changing nature of pronouns? Is it bad now to be a man or a woman? Are those things wrong? What if people care but are afraid? Like afraid to be wrong, afraid to get it wrong, afraid to hurt a friend or a potential friend or a possible friend by getting it wrong? Would it be better not to speak? Is it better not to speak than to get it wrong? How does one practice to get it right? How is it that you can say they so easily and I cannot? Am I stupid because I cannot say the words very easily? Do you think I'm stupid? What if you have spent your life trying to be good, to do it right? What if it hurts to be told that you're doing it wrong? But what if you mean well? Do intentions count for nothing anymore? What if you're not perfect? What if perfection feels beyond you? Is that the journey or is it a goal? Like if theater is about the human struggle, why does it seem like we prize getting it right over mucking around in the mess? Why is mucking so messy? Why does it feel messy? Why do we sometimes feel bad about ourselves when we're covered in muck? Like, what is the muck I'm talking about? Can I be a good person even if I am covered in muck? Who decides if we're good people? Who is the arbiter of good and not good enough? When I'm alone in the dark night of my soul and I wonder whether I am good enough, who will send an answer that I am able to hear? Again, one must ask, why do we never talk about God? Who is it that can see inside my heart? Who is it that knows what I am meant to do even if I have failed? Who is it that tells us that to fail is not to be a failure? Who is it that loves me when I cannot fathom deserving love? When the world tells me I'm not as good enough as I am, when I tell me I'm not good enough as I am, who will intervene? And who will love me anyway? Who will teach me how to love? Who will teach me how to see what is meant, what is intended? Who will teach me how to forgive? Who will teach me how to love? How did I survive it all? How did I not end up dead? How was I that fortunate? Who taught me how to forgive myself? how will I teach others?
End of piece. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Extra special thanks to Jen Haltman, my director, Mary Kate Mangum up in the booth, Shanta, Alex, Ben, Josh, Emily, and the whole staff here at Joe's Pub. Your servers in the house tonight, please tip them well. Kate Yan and MJ Kaufman, Honest Accomplice Theater, Ramon Tejada and Arsenio Santos, Broadway World, Time Out New York, Anessa Marie, all of tonight's writers, and as always, my parents in the front row. And I just have to say, we're so running late, but something I said to Kit and I had a very futuristic Skype meeting when I first pitched this show, and I said to him, this show often is about the problems in the industry, or what is hard in the industry, but all it has brought to me is love over the years. Love of other performers, love of the people who come out to this show, and I just thank you so much for being here and sharing this space with us. And please come back another time. Let's hear it for Brian Michael Smith, maybe Burke, Aneesh, Sheth, Samy el-Noury, Pooya Mohseni, Tonilyn, Sideco, and I'm Lynne Rosenberg. Thank you so much.